I spent most of my time dealing with cash flow,
People.
legal.
If you were to give advice to him about going from 0 to 100 followers.
You can have accountability and still have a flexible workplace.
Welcome back to Unfinished Business. I am your host, Anaita Sarkar, founder of Hero Packaging, Stage, and author of Sell Anything Online. Today, we are joined by a man who's shaped the way a generation of Australians consumes media. He is the co-founder of Junkie Media and the author of Work Backwards. Please welcome Tim Duggan.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like I said 2 things that you've done, but you've actually done a bazillion things, including being the author of now, 4?
I'm writing my 4th book at the moment.
4th.
But I feel like anyone, I have a bunch of things. We normally talk about the things that fail. We don't talk about, there'd probably be about 30 things that you could list off and be like, he's the founder of this thing here. He did this thing here that failed.
Yeah, yes.
But yes, Junkie Media.
We never talk about that sort of
We
stuff.
don't. We don't talk about those. Yeah, I do a bunch of things.
You do. And, for everyone listening, it's not just Work Backwards. I mean, everyone would know you originally from Cult Status.
I was a journalist to start with, music journalist primarily in my early 20s. And then I co-founded a website when I was about 23 with some friends of mine, without knowing much, without thinking too much, without thinking this is a job or this is a career.
Yeah.
And then over 15 years, that grew into Junkie Media, which at its peak, we had about 65 full-time staff. So it was a big, thriving, hard, exciting, daunting business to run.
How long until you got to that 65 employee mark?
It was gradual over 15 years. It took a while of within that 65, therefore there's probably hundreds of people that we'd hired and fired and made redundant and all of the highs and lows of business during that period. So we really rode the wave of digital media. We rode the wave of Facebook at the time, which was the main way of people consuming information.
Yes.
And we ended up selling the business in 2016.
Okay.
And
10 years ago now.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the very first time when we sold it to a company that had about 1,000 staff. And you start a business because you are interested in the topic. And then when it grows, I spent most of my time dealing with cash flow,
people,
legal, HR.
Wow.
Those 3 things. And so when we sold the business to a company with 1,000 staff, all of a sudden I could hand over to them, here's all my problems with people, here's all my problems with finance, here's all my problems with legal. And they had teams of people to help with that. And that was when I had, for the first time, a little bit of headspace and I started writing Cult Status, which was my first book.
Did it really help you?
It really did. It was sharing my problems with other people.
Yes.
So we still had the problems.
Yes.
But all of a sudden
You had help.
Help.
Yeah.
I had legal teams that I could say, hey, this is the problem we're facing at the moment. Before that, it was me and my business partners fumbling our way through, using consultants where we could. And so, I ended up staying for about 4 years through an earn-out and then even longer at the company that bought us because I really quite enjoyed, for the first time, I'd gone from a founder to being an employee.
Yes.
And it was a very different experience and I enjoyed it.
Did you? That's really interesting for me to know.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then,
and then you were done.
Then the itch happened again and I was like, I need to do something different. So Cult Status came out in 2020 and we're sitting here 6 years later and I still get messages almost every day, certainly every week, from people saying we've applied this or this part here has really helped my business. And I love now seeing this whole new generation, including you, who have taken something from this book and figured out how they can apply it to their everyday life. And I love that.
That's amazing. I mean, and then you kind of transition to another style of book, which is Work Backwards. I want to ask you about this because, Tim Ferriss, he wrote a book called 4 Hour Workweek. And I think a lot of people laugh about it because he definitely doesn't work 4 hours in his work.
I don't think anyone works a 4-hour work week.
But you've written a book called Work Backwards. Do you actually do as you preach? Like, are you living the work backwards life? And can you explain what that is?
100%. Yeah. So Work Backwards is a way of thinking about work and thinking about how we prioritize what we do in our life. And Work Backwards is, instead of work automatically default being the most important thing in our life, how can we reframe to make life the most important thing? So what we actually want to do, who we want to be, then the money that we need to do that, and then work still be important, but not the most important thing in our life. And the book came out a few years ago now, and I 100% live by it. I still do. I when I was writing the book, I was lots of people were coming to me and saying, your life looks pretty nice. How do you do this?
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to not just be about me. I ended up speaking to about 60 or 70 people who had, from bakers in Glasgow through to founders who were reprioritizing the role that work played in their life. So I now work 3 days a week, and I have for the last 5 years. I really control when people can put time into my calendar. So I only let people put time in between normally about 10 and 2 on Monday to Wednesday. And of course, it's not perfect. I choose to do things outside of that when I have to. If I have a book deadline, I'm going to work on a Friday.
You got to do it.
But I'm really fiercely protective of it. And it means that my husband and I spent 3 years living in Mallorca recently, and we both worked 3 days a week and then spend the other 4 days of the week living.
You are goals to me. You are goals to so many founders and entrepreneurs. I'm sure to everyone, but I speak as a founder, that it's the life that we would all love to live. And, you know, it's not just about chilling out on a beach somewhere. It's not about that. It's about that mental space. And I feel like a bit more to have that regimented Monday to Friday work actually makes you more free. And that's something that I'm really looking forwards to, because at the moment, and for a lot of people, you know, we work all day and help our team, and then all night we do our own work, and all weekend we're thinking about work, and we don't have the freedom or the space in our mind to think about life. And I find it hard to work backwards.
Yeah. It is really, really hard. And it is something that doesn't happen overnight. So it took me about 10 years to get to that stage.
Yeah.
So literally 10 years so not only running the business, but 10 years of deciding I want to have more freedom with my life. That was 10 years then of, okay, we should sell our business. So speaking to co-founders, speaking to investors, getting that aligned, trying to sell the business and failing, then trying to sell it again, then successfully selling it, then having an earn out for 3 years, then COVID coming along and all of that stopping and not being able to move overseas. So it took 10 years for me to get to that stage. And the other thing I say is what I love and want is quite unique to me. So I love hiking, I love diving. I now try and make as much time in my life to do those things. But for somebody else, it might be picking up their kid from school at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
For somebody else, it might be clawing back half an hour so I can meditate in the morning. For someone else, it might be sleeping in. So whatever it is, the concept of work backwards is
start there.
Start small.
Yeah.
Start by thinking, how can I today save half an hour? And the temptation, if you save half an hour, is to think, now I've got half an hour more to work.
Yeah.
Whereas if you consciously think about, okay, what am I working for? If it's to spend more time with my family, if I can save half an hour by using AI, by having better meetings, by condensing my work hours, by only letting people book time into my diary at a certain time, with that half hour, what do I consciously want to do with that? And if you want to hike, go hike. If you want to spend time with the kids, spend time with the kids. Whatever gives you meaning.
I love that so much. It just sounds like it's your decision. It has to start with you deciding that that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
And for most of us, we don't make that decision.
We don't. We just let life go.
We just get caught up in the swell of life, and we just get on there, and before we know it, if you get caught in that swell, you're working 24/7. So that's what Work Backwards is about.
Love that. Now it's time for Reality Check, and this is where we listen to real stories submitted by our listeners on things that don't always go so right when running a business. Let's have a listen.
Hey, I launched a new product last year on Instagram, and I bought a few thousand fake followers to make the account look more established. And it backfired spectacularly. Now my community is like 90% bots from accounts that only post about crypto scams, and my engagement is about 0.01%, like nothing. So I'm basically talking to a digital brick wall. So if you have any advice, any questions, please help me out.
Wow.
I don't mean to laugh in a bad way. It's just we've all kind of done these sorts of things and it never goes well.
I'm laughing in a bad way. I have not done these things.
But you're like a master of community engagement and your whole life is built on that, so I can see why you would laugh. But sometimes as a small business owner, you just feel like you've got to fake it till you make it, and you think the easiest way to show that I'm like amazing is to buy like engagement or buy followers. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the quality of your community and the people that you engage with doesn't need to be all about quantity. So I would rather have 1,000 people who were my exact audience that I was really trying to speak to than 10,000 people that was not my audience.
Yes.
So I totally understand vanity metrics, and I think we're not immune to seeing it, but I would recommend that he either just start again.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. Like, would you say start a new account?
Yeah, just start a new account. I feels like he's ruined this one.
Yeah.
I would start again and aim for 100 people. Think of, I sometimes think when we're talking about numbers online, we get a bit, they don't mean anything.
Yes.
Whereas if you actually think about it, and if you have 5,000 people following you, if you have 1,000 people
Huge.
following you,
who are actually
who are real
people.
humans,
Yeah.
you are talking to people that are going to be your potential customers.
Yeah.
I often think that just the numbers, they become meaningless after a while. And so I think just aim for 100 people. Once you get to 100, aim for 200, aim for
Yes.
500.
I think people underestimate just starting again is like such a beautiful thing to do. You've made that mistake. You've bought the followers. You know it means nothing. Like any engagement you get means nothing. So starting again is a great strategy. And I think more people don't do it. I actually believe even on TikTok, on Instagram, sometimes starting a new account, creating fresh content can actually get you further than even if you had built an audience and it wasn't engaging. Starting again works really well for that.
Yeah.
If you were to give advice to him about going from 0 to 100 followers, how can he do that?
Yeah, I think the simplest thing is figuring out exactly who you're going for.
Yeah.
So at the start, he was going for a number. And now if he's going for a particular sort of person, I always try and put myself in their shoes and try and figure out what do they want to know? How can you help them? How can you actually create content that's of value to them? What would you say?
I would say something really similar. So I would say that if I'm going from 0 to 100 and say you own my audience, say you have got such a great following, you own my audience, I would try and ask you if I could be on your podcast or if I would try and kind of talk to you a bit more and you leverage your people, but also give value. So that's a starting point of actually getting followers to begin with and doing that to multiple people, giving as much value as I can to other people's audiences so that you're leveraging their audience in order to just get started. And then from that point, creating content you know is going to resonate with the right type of person. So whether you're talking about what problem areas they've got or really specifically, but getting that high engagement. But you need to get that number of people first.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he went wrong. He was trying to get it inauthentically and then now no one's engaging at all.
Yeah.
So I think leveraging other people's audiences is probably one of the best ways to do it.
Because something smells wrong sometimes. If you go to someone's page and they've got 10,000 followers and they're getting no likes,
there's
that's
something wrong.
worse than going to somebody's page that has 1,000 followers and they're getting some likes.
I agree with you. I'm going to tell you a little secret, right?
Please do.
Well, I have been doing a little bit of stalking and hunting of other people's social media accounts just to see what works, what doesn't. You know, with the implementation of AI, I'm trying to scrape information to see what is working and what's not. And what I've found, which is absolutely crazy to me, is that so many businesses have more than 60 to 70% fake followers.
Wow.
And it's not just the followers, but they're also paying for the engagement as well. So the likes, every post has the same number of likes, and that's a real key
Because someone buys 200 likes.
2,000 likes.
2,000 likes.
2,000
wow.
likes. And it'll be the same number every single time. And so it's fascinating to me that so many businesses are still doing that, maybe to portray that they are, you know, bigger and better and more successful. What I've realized when running a business is all of those vanity metrics genuinely don't matter. Doesn't mean cash in your business, doesn't mean customers, it doesn't mean repeat loyal customers, it doesn't mean brand ambassadors, it doesn't mean real engagement. Like, you don't get anything for it except for your own ego being boosted.
Yeah, I actually think they do matter, but not in the way that you think they do. And they matter because they distract you.
Yes.
So you think they're important, and all they're doing is they're taking your time and attention away from, instead of you figuring out how can you actually get leads and conversions, you're trying to chase, wow, congratulations, guys, we got to 20,000 followers. Who gives a crap?
Who cares?
100%.
Okay, I love that. All right, we have one more reality check. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, g'day. I'm a founder who likes to be a little bit flexible with my team, but I think lately they've just taken it a little bit too far. And what I mean by that is recently we had a 9 a.m. strategy meeting and I was the only one who was there. One was on the road, one forgot, and I don't remember the other one. I want to be a good boss, but I also don't want to be a doormat. How can I ensure my team has the independence and the flexibility, but comes to meetings and shows up on time?
This is so you. This is made for you because future of work, leadership, workplace conflict, like tell me what you would tell this guy.
Yeah, first of all, I hear him. I think we're living in this time where the line between what was acceptable and what's not acceptable is now so blurred. So in the past, certainly going back 6 years ago, everyone would be in the office by a certain time. And if you weren't in the office by 8:30 or 9 o'clock, whatever time you meant to start.
Yeah, your manager's like,
Yeah, you would have a conversation about it, what the social norm was. Now we've gone quite far in the other direction where people are working from home. There is a more rubbery boundaries between this.
Yeah.
And that then invites lots of problems. And one of these problems is things like this where accountability just falls off. So you can have accountability and still have a flexible workplace. So
how?
by having honest, hard conversations.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like it's a strategy meeting, which is not just a regular weekly whip that someone can happen to miss. A strategy meeting would be something that's really important.
Yes.
So there's obviously a big problem if he's put a time in people's calendars and they haven't turned up. So what he should do is have hard conversations with everyone who wasn't there, do them one-on-one, and explain the reasons why he thinks it's important, the behavior that he's noticed, and allow them, instead of going in there and judging them and thinking you're going to go in there and yell at somebody, ask them to explain their reason for why they think they have acted in that way.
Yep.
Once you start listening to what people say, you can then actually get to the real reason behind why someone is late.
Yes.
And there might be 1,000 different reasons. They might have not realized it's important. They might have thought something else. There's 1,000 different hypotheticals that might happen. But I think unless you really try and interrogate, have honest, hard conversations with your team, it sounds like it's about time and he needs to put his big boy pants on.
Put your big boy pants on and actually have those conversations that are so awkward and so uncomfortable.
No one enjoys them.
No one likes
about
them.
80% of people will avoid conflict if given the chance, including me, including you,
Yes.
including probably everyone listening to this.
Yeah.
I've spent the last few years studying conflict because I've written a book at the moment on tension and particularly in the workplace.
Yes.
And one of the most interesting findings that I've discovered is that there's actually one single word that I think is the most powerful word in conflict, which is a bit underrated.
What is it?
It's how. So if you can incorporate how into your questions.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So every time you incorporate how into the question, you are inviting the other person to solve the problem for you. So researchers call it forced empathy. So an example in this situation would be, so how do you think this makes me feel? How am I meant to do my work if you don't arrive on time? How do you think this sets us up as an example for all the other employees? And what you're doing there is you're inviting the other person to basically solve my problem for me. And by doing that, you then get empathy, you get them understand what the other person has, and you can really approach a lot of conflicts in that way.
I think that's brilliant. And that's exactly what we were talking about before. It's like asking the questions and then adding that how in there because it's asking the right questions.
That is the right questions.
Right?
Yeah, with a curious mindset.
Yes.
So you shouldn't, sometimes you can ask questions and you know what the answer is. Like they're leading questions.
Yes.
And other times they're open questions. And how is an example of a really open question.
I love the open questions. And it's also how you say it. You can't say something like, and how do you think that makes me feel?
Yeah, totally. Intention is behind this is very important.
Yes.
And I think this boss, he is living in this world that we're all living in, which is a bit rubbery and the boundaries are all a bit loose. And the only way that you tighten them up is by asking questions, by being really clear. Yeah, my new book is called Clear Intention. And it's all about how to be really clear in moments of tension.
Well, you heard it here first. That's his
That's
book
an exclusive.
name. I think there's a big disconnect as well because when I was starting my first job, which was maybe 23 years ago, it was at an accounting firm. And it was rules on rules on rules. Like I got told off for wearing certain clothes or being late by a minute or, saying certain things, or there were so many rules, and it was we grew up in a world where it was quite rule-based and harsh.
It's black and white.
It really was.
Yeah.
And you don't show up, you're out of here. Like you go for a meeting with your manager and you're on warning. Whereas now people don't like that. And we're now managing, these people who are managed in a certain way are now managers, and we're leaders. And we're now having to lead in a way that is different, and it's so hard for us to do.
It is.
It's more open, and you have to be more flexible and lenient, but also set boundaries. People management, honestly, for everybody that I know, and including myself, is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And you have to be conscious of how you show up as a leader.
People management is the hardest skill to manage. And I think you'll go through your entire career fumbling your way through. I don't think anyone becomes a complete expert at it. I think we learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
We learn how to move with the times as well. And the times have changed. And so what you just said is perfectly correct in that things were a lot more black and white.
Yeah.
And now things are a lot more grey. And that's just the world that we live in. And we have Gen Z coming up through the ranks, and they are managing teams, and they're dealing with millennials and dealing with still Gen Xers, and there's still boomers who probably own some of the businesses.
Yeah.
You've got all these generations all trying to interact and intermingle with each
They're all
other.
so different.
And it's hard.
And I guess the last question on this is, how do you, you had 65 employees at one point. How do you, if you could give me maybe one tip on how to set culture in a company in a way that is beneficial to not only you, but also to everyone there, what is the tip that you have for setting a good culture?
I think the thing that most people don't understand about culture is we think it's set from the top. We think it's
Yes,
the
that's what
founders
I
and
think.
CEOs setting it. It's actually set from the bottom up.
Okay.
Because the culture is living. It is how people actually behave. So the CEOs and the founders, you can say what you think the culture is going to be.
Yeah.
And people certainly look up to you. And so you need to have good culture coming from the top, but you also need to have it coming from the bottom up as well. And that's why your culture can be easily undone by people who don't agree with it, or who are toxic, or who can easily infect other people. And you have to be really, really conscious with it. I don't think you ever get to a stage where you think, done, we've got a good culture.
I've set that policy, and that's got my culture.
Yeah, you have to, it's this living organism, and it is top down, it is bottom up, it is the events that you have, and it can change in an instant.
And you've got to adapt to the changing culture, or like the changing, I guess, behaviors of the people in your team.
Totally. And they are changing around with the world around them. So think of COVID, for example, the changes that happened with that. We all had to figure out how to adapt to that at the same time. And that affected culture in wild ways. I don't want to go back to those.
No,
lists.
let's not. But basically, leadership is hard.
Leadership is hard. People management is hard.
It is.
Yeah. It's also so bloody rewarding, though. It's one of the best things that you can do, but also one of the hardest things.
I think just in conclusion to that, and to the listener who sent in that audio, is have the difficult conversations. We love that. We are such an advocate for that. But difficult conversations, easy life.
100%.
Okay, now it is time for the Growth Hotline, where a real small business joins us on the podcast to talk about where they're at and where they want to get to. Our guests today are Lauren Barber and Alicia Mullins, the founders of NeedleCalm. They have created an amazing medical adhesive pad that blocks pain signals for people with needle phobias. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Guys, I am genuinely excited because this is something that is so needed. And I feel like so many people don't even realize that there could be a solution to the issues that they face when they're about to have a needle, right? We've grown up our whole lives thinking, that's it, you got pain, and you've got to deal with the needle pain. But you've created something that can actually help people with that anxiety when it comes to needles. And you're a registered nurse as well, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided to come up with a product like this?
Sure. So I've been nursing for just over 16 years now in total. Most of that time I've spent in emergency. And then I went and did a postgrad in cosmetic dermatology. So I was working for a dermatologist, and I was involved in a needle procedure or doing something on a 3-year-old. It all went wrong, I guess, and I ended up with a dirty needle in my finger. needed surgery from that. So that's really been the turning point for me. That's made me just hyper-focus on needle phobia. And while I was recovering for surgery, I just kind of did a deep dive into all the research and just reflected on my own clinical practice and how we measure it in the hospitals, what we do in the hospitals. And I just realised that there was a big correlation between people having chronic comorbidities such as hypertension, type 2 diabetes, GORD, and a high BMI. So most of the time I can trace that back to an early needle phobia. So it starts around the ages of 3 to 6, so when the kids been absolutely inundated with vaccinations. They're not done correctly because there's no training for this either, how to manage it properly. Like a lot of clinicians have their own tricks and they're amazing at it, but sometimes there's so many variables that can go wrong. And then so I kind of started making that connection and looking at all the products that were available out on the market. I realized that a lot of them were made for children, so there was no really kind of adult friendly thing. I just started fiddling away with different materials and research, and I came up with NeedleCalm. So the purpose of it is to be proactive rather than reactive and deal with all the fainting and the trauma and all the things that kind of come along with needle phobia, and really tackle the shame and embarrassment that people have as well. So it's really clinical looking, super boring. Just wanted to just not be like a huge thing. Yes. So a lot of our patients are 6 foot plus men covered in tattoos and piercings. Like I just
and
want
they
them.
don't want a little kids thing.
Yeah. It's it affects everyone. There's no, it can't say you don't look like a person with needle phobia, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, exactly.
Is this it here?
Can you show us how it works?
Wow.
It's so fascinating.
This is the device here, and I was absolutely astounded when I learned that up to 1 in 4 adults have needle phobia.
I'm not astounded at all. It hurts.
Yeah. And so for children, it's obviously way more than that.
So it's 1 in 4 people and 3 in 4 are lying.
Yeah, exactly right. So this is the device that Lauren developed. It's quite amazing. So ultimately, it's a double-sided pad. So it's used a special thermoplastic. So you'd store it in the fridge first, and then the other side of it acts as a desensitizing pad. And ultimately what that does is when you apply it on the skin directly above the point at the time at which the needle enters the skin, it blocks off the pathway of pain signals to the brain. So it's called the gate theory of pain. It's been around in conception for 60 odd years. And it ultimately confuses the brain and desensitizes the whole needle issue.
And what reactions do you have from people when they use it for the first time, people who are needle phobic?
It varies. They need to be kind of educated about it. Like you can't just go, put it on. We have a lot of people that don't feel anything. That's most of the time. Neurodivergent people just take a bit of time. They need to press it and feel what it's like. I just tell them, it feels like a firm toothbrush on the skin. And then we have people with severe needle phobia. It takes a little while for their pain to come right back down because it's just neuroscience. They've already had a traumatic experience for them. Like pain is whatever the patient says it is. It's hard to judge, but their pain is 10 out of 10 from the prior needle procedure. Their brain's already gone, okay, it's going to be 10 out of 10. It's hard to get them out of that cycle. But with NeedleCalm, they'll use it and they go, oh, it still hurt. It might be a 6 out of 10. And then next time they use it again. It's just making them get comfortable, giving them repeated positive experiences. That is the absolute key to helping with them. It helps foster a trusting relationship with the clinician. If people have an attitude of, oh, I'm not going to use that, stop being a baby, then, it's a sign that that person might not be the best person to do your needle procedure. So there's a lot of things going on here. So a bit of a psychological aspect to it. It's made intentionally to be shaped like a Band-Aid. So we're kind of providing the care before we do the not so nice thing.
And it doesn't look scary at all.
No.
It looks pretty boring.
It looks boring, and I love that.
It looks like a medical device.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same colour.
Yeah, and it's ultimately designed to kind of fade into the background so that people don't really notice, and you're not making a special fuss out of it for a patient, because that's obviously going to turn them off and heighten their anxiety around the fact that they're about to have a procedure that they don't want to have in the first place.
And there's some random looking, like,
I know, and you make a special,
thing.
make extra fuss about it, and that's not helping. So
It's so smart. It is so smart, and I'm actually blown away by the innovation and the fact that you're still working as a nurse and you're doing this as well, and it's just incredible. I just want to say hats off to you for creating something like this that is actually going to help people. And I want to ask, is this actually registered as a medical device, or is it just people can just use it willy-nilly? Like, how does it work?
yeah, so it's registered with the TGA, so the Therapeutic Goods Administration
and that comes
of
with its
Australia.
own challenges too, right?
It does, right? So
Yeah.
it's registered as what's called a Class 1 medical device, meaning it's the lowest kind of grade of medical device, which brings its own challenges in that, you know, there are instructions for use, there are that need to be supplied with every product. It also means that there's an advertising code that you would have to adhere
Yes.
to. Now, at least with a Class 1 device, it's a lower bar of entry, as opposed to us more technical devices. But it's not as simple as just you having influencers talking about all the benefits and all the things that are amazing about the device. You have to be very strict with what you can say and what you can't say about anything that's medically related.
So let's get to the challenge.
Yeah.
Really why you're here. What is the biggest challenge that you guys are facing right now at NeedleCalm?
Do you want me to take that one?
I think you can start and I'll fill in the gaps.
Yeah. So look, I've been on board for about 8 or 9 months now, and the reality is that with any business, any small business, is always going to be challenges. And I think for Lauren, what has been probably one of the biggest challenges to date is that there are so many competing priorities. You know, you've got to have the website up and running. It's ultimately an e-commerce product. You've got to have your socials. You've got to have your content strategy. You've got to have your marketing. You've also got to have your clinical research and your funding. You've got to be talking to all the different stakeholders. There's a lot of shiny objects. And what makes it really challenging is kind of being able to knuckle down and just say, if I can only do one thing, what is that one thing going to be?
Yes.
And the reality is that whatever that one thing is either going to cost money and or generate money, or it's going to cost money and not generate money. And so it's about how do you choose what to do, what's important, because the reality is that in order to do all the other things, you need to start generating a revenue. And to be able to then spend money on the next thing.
100%.
And every founder, I'm sure, goes through these exact same challenges,
Absolutely,
right?
because everything is time and money, right?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Yeah.
And it's figuring out also exactly, I think priorities is something that is always going to be an issue, especially when you're at the stage of figuring out where's the market for this? What is the market? What's the size of the market? Where should we go? So I've got a couple of questions around that. Who is the ideal target market for this?
It's parents, I think.
It's
Parents
parents.
and nurses, they're the top two people that, you know, they see the whole trajectory of what happens.
And is the aim for them to buy it themselves and bring this in to doctors or hospitals?
At the moment, like, it's not ideal, but we
Yeah,
find
look,
that
it's a parallel path ultimately, I think, you know, because you've got your consumer, your everyday mum and dad who knows that they're going to have to deal with the fallout of their child going for a vaccination, for example. But then you've also got the nurses in the emergency department who are challenged by a patient that takes them 20, 30 minutes to have a simple procedure rather than the 2 or 3 minutes that it should take. And I think that's one of the big challenges in that the market is as big or as diverse as you want it to be. So it's about how do we rein that in and go, okay, let's focus and let's target specifically on the parents. I mean, there are pharmacists who are doing increasing number of vaccinations now, and in fact, new rules that have meant that that's going to become the norm, you know, into the future. And so vaccinations at pharmacy clinics, so therefore they're a great target. Do you go into the pharmacist owners, the ones who are doing the vaccinations,
There's so many
or the consumers
potentials.
who can buy it
That's
off
the
the shelf,
issue.
right? So yeah. So I think really in order to be targeted and focused, you have to go with the people who understand that entire patient story. And at the moment, it's the parent.
It's a parent. Okay. Well, the good thing about that is once you narrow in on who that's going to be, one thing that I always get people to do is to really then try and figure out, and the really simple question is, if you're trying to reach parents, where do they congregate? So you might think that and do that exercise yourself and figure out, okay, where do they congregate? It could be online, it could be in person, it could be, for me, the answer comes down to schools.
Yeah, school gates. I was just about to say that we all congregate at the school gate.
And schools are really interesting because you can then target, a school is easier to target one school that has 500 parents as opposed to trying to get 500 people online to go to your e-commerce site. That's going to be hard. So what's your school outreach been like, and have you had much success there, or is that a target?
Yeah, it's been a little limited. However, there've been approaches via kind of parent communities online in Facebook groups and things like that. And there's been talk of trying to get into things like school uniform shops and those kind of avenues. So yeah, look, it's definitely part of the mix for sure, and something that we probably need to focus on a little bit more. Absolutely, but those communities online who are always looking for a solution. We've found a little bit more traction in places like diabetes communities, where you've got parents who are in communities where they're tackling children who've just been diagnosed with diabetes, for example, and they're going through a whole gamut of challenges, but daily injections being one of them. And so that's quite targeted and specific. And so that's less about the school gate, more about the online community where it's a bit more focused. But yeah, it's all the things are possibilities.
I think what you guys need to do is, if you're really targeting parents, so I would say nurses are going to be really hard because nurses aren't going to buy it. It's going to be the hospitals that buy it. And then they're your target market, and that's even harder.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going to go down the parent route, it's a really important thing to do exactly as Tim said and figure out where they're congregating. You've had success with the parents of kids who have diabetes and a lot of needles, but that's very small, right? So we want to increase the target addressable market, but also be very niche with what we do. So if it's parents, we've got that as a segment. And then we've got the school parents who are just generally, and you think about them individually. If that was your entire market, what would you do to get to them? Don't think about the diabetes kids and parents of those kids right now. Just think about schools, right? And go, okay, there's school newsletters which go out every Wednesday or Thursday. There's the school gates. You get one parent that loves it and the whole school will know about it.
Oh, yeah. There's school WhatsApp groups.
School WhatsApp. There's so many.
If you WhatsApp groups is what are like an under-tapped resource where all it takes is one person in that group that you need to get to. How do you get to that one person? They put in there and they say, I've just done this for my daughter. It was amazing. She had a needle for the first time. She didn't cry. Here's a link to buy it. Can you imagine how many people would then go? So all of a sudden, the task that starts off humongous, you'll narrow it down to figure out how can I get into a WhatsApp group or into any of the other places that Anaita suggested.
We've had, I think, a similar situation happening down in Melbourne where, like, we survived quite a long time before Alicia came on by word of mouth in small amounts, but I think that's happening down in Melbourne. I think it's gotten around to the school mums. We had, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had quite a few orders just from similar suburbs in Melbourne.
Really? And so you just assume that came from mums telling each other about it?
I hope so.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great question. I'd love to get into one of these WhatsApp groups. Without a child at a school, I'm not sure that I could really qualify.
That's a little bit weird.
That'd be a bit odd, but yeah.
We could do like an after school kind of in-service, teach them all about it.
You can also just ask.
Yeah.
So I think the art of asking is actually quite underrated.
So
true. Asking people that you have sold to, maybe it's a follow-up email that you send 3 weeks after sending every single sale, and it just says, hi, did you use the product?
Yep.
Did it work?
Yep.
If it did, can you share it with other mums or share it with other people?
Yeah.
Especially if you can just make sure they understand your origin story, because your origin story is strong.
Yeah.
That's really powerful, and you just want to make sure that you are making the most of the people that are already buying. If you can get every single one of them to put it into their WhatsApp group, there's your audience.
What was that thing that came into schools? Healthy
Harold.
He's
still around.
Yes.
They still do. I love Healthy Harold.
I think that is something that you could potentially do.
Yeah.
Not bring in the big van, but you're
giraffe?
making something that is so scary and annoying and painful for kids, and so like, oh, I don't want a needle. Oh, I don't want a needle. You know, make it fun and so silly almost, and give them a place of like, okay, yes, we have always felt pain, but how can you go into schools and actually create a classroom and talk to the schools? Like Tim said, simply asking a school, hey, would you have like an opening, or like, we do this and we would love to, talk to the kids about this and talk. And you are an expert. You've been in emergency for years. You're a nurse. Like, you are practicing and you're keeping up with all the hours. And there's so much that that could help kids so much, as if schools wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
I'll show you the colouring sheets that Alicia and I have made.
Oh, the colouring sheets.
Yeah. So this was the original one, Ned the Needle.
Love that.
So move over, healthy, happy.
Yeah,
healthy
exactly.
adults.
Ned the Needle.
Ned the
Well,
Needle.
and what I love about this is it's ultimately Lauren's created a kids activity pack that a parent can buy when they're buying a NeedleCalm with a kids activity
And
pack.
start the conversation.
Start the
Very
conversation
smart.
and get us the little syringe with some that they get to stick little
They
stickers on and
decorate
decorate
it.
with
Oh,
glitter.
yeah.
You're
Taking
changing
the
the
fear away.
mindset.
Yeah.
You're changing their behaviours.
Absolutely. And look, Lauren's worked for years with the Sydney Phobia Clinic, and so she's very, very experienced in not just managing giving an injection, but the whole journey of a patient and taking them to a place where they perhaps have missed needles for years and years and years, to then being able to actually have one. And so it's more than just a product. It's definitely the story, the origin story, but also the education and the benefits that you can bring to not just the patient, but their family and everyone around them on their healthcare journey. Because we truly believe and know that healthcare more broadly is absolutely impacted by people's willingness to participate. And if having a bad needle experience can then set you on a path that's going to say, I'm going to avoid going to the doctor, I'm going to not have that blood test, I'm going to have a late diagnosis, and then I'm going to end up in emergency a lot older, a lot sicker, which is ultimately a bigger cost to the healthcare system more broadly, but that's a whole nother journey. But that is going to help us ultimately address this challenge if we can kind of get in there at the prevention stage and educate the community.
I absolutely love the business, guys, and thank you so much for coming in. I think just in summary, what Tim was saying is just really understand who you want. Like, ultimately, of course, there's so much stuff out there. There's shiny things all over the place. Go real deep. Yeah. And I think we both agree that parents is a really good starting point, and going deep into school communities, going deep into anywhere online where parents are is like a really, really great starting point. And I think you're going to get a lot of traction there as well. Well, thank you, Lauren and Alicia, for coming in. I appreciate this so much, and it's been so lovely to talk to you. And Tim, thank you so much for being the guest expert today. It has been amazing, and I wish I had a pen because I've been taking mental notes, but I'll have a chat to you afterwards anyway. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm Anaita Sarkar. Thank you for listening to Unfinished Business. Please leave us 5 stars, write a review, tell your friends if you like this episode, and I'm going to see you next time.